Welcome, everybody. I'm so honored and grateful to spend this time with you. We're going to talk today about entitlement and commitment and determination. But before we do that, I want to introduce myself. I'm Justin Hilton. I'm the founder of Safe Place International. And Safe Place International is an organization that supports LGBT refugees and women and children around the world. We started out supporting them just in their basic needs: housing, medical, legal, food, all those things that keep us safe from the threats that are out there. And we've evolved to training leaders because we believe that the voices of those who have been most marginalized are absolutely essential to the challenges and the big problems that the world faces today. So what we focus on is leadership training. And what we know is that most of the education, whether it's online and in person, is tailored to a very privileged group. And so all of our courses are tailored and catered and speaking directly to those who have experienced systematic marginalization because of who they love, how they identify, or just being in a marginalized group that's had to flee their country, often with children. So each of our courses focuses on unleashing, realizing, and fully expressing the leadership capabilities that we know are inside each one of us. But we have identified and been constantly affirmed in our assumption that people that have experienced marginalization are uniquely suited to lead. Their experience has given them resilience, insight, compassion, empathy, passion, and an impetus to self-examine, to know who they are despite the negative messages they've received that most folks in privileged groups haven't had the impetus to engage in. We know that if you're watching this video, that on some level you know who you are, and on some level you're in touch with your destiny, your purpose on this earth. And the purpose of this video and all the work that we do is to invite that awareness of who you are and what you're up to out even further, and to look at the various things that get in the way. The messages that we've heard, the conditioning that we've had, the ways that we've had to adapt to everything that life has thrown at us. So I want to say again that if you're watching this video, we're so glad you're here. I'm so glad you're here because we believe that you are uniquely suited to lead, whether in your family, in your community, or on a more global stage. And our graduates have done just that. They've started their own organizations, they've spoke to Parliament, they've been key forces in getting legislation that protects the communities that we serve. What we find is that as people wake up to their potential, they take action and they make a difference. So that's our purpose here today. We're gonna look at some specific aspects of how we approach life, specifically entitlement, determination, and commitment today. But I want to talk a little bit about our approach to learning. So often when you come into a learning environment, there's someone at the front of the room who's giving you information, and you're taking that information and doing whatever with it, right? That's not how it works at Safe Place International, and that's not how all of our courses operate. So even though we're sharing this virtual space together, we're going to be collaborating. And I want to say something about our approach. We call it collaborative learning and realization. So what does that mean? That means that I'm going to offer some distinctions and some ideas and some new perspectives, and then I'm going to give you an opportunity to write about what that means for you and to draw from your own life experience and find the relevancy. We don't want to be sharing anything that you can't immediately use and deploy in your life. So all through our time together, I'm going to be asking you to think about things, and I'm going to asking you to write and draw from your own experience. So we talked about the collaborative part, how we're gonna work together. Let's talk about the learning part. The learning is about how you work. And the realization is about what you really want. The realization is coming fully into your purpose. And our conversation today is gonna start with entitlement and then weave into commitment and determination. Because getting what we want is not just a given. Let's talk about that, right? If you're in a privileged community growing up in the West with resources, from birth, you're told that everything you do is amazing and you're gonna excel and the world's gonna unfold for you. And whether you go to the grocery store or you're visiting your grandma or you're in school, you're given all these positive messages that affirm that the world is available to meet your needs. If you're in what we call a marginalized group, which everyone watching this video, and including myself, I've got some marginalization as well, has experienced systematic marginalization, which means you've experienced the opposite. You've had people tell you that who you love is not right, that how you walk and how you talk is not right, that where you come from is not right, that your color is not right, that your gender is not right. So many things have been told to you about who you are being wrong and about the limitations of what you can have in your life, what's available to you, what can be on the menu for you given how wrong you are. So we're gonna talk about the reactions to that conditioning and then how to overcome those reactions. We do that in all our courses, but in this course, we're gonna focus on entitlement. And I like to start with definitions because entitlement is thrown around in a lot of different ways and means a lot of things to different people. So I'm gonna look down for a second and just read the definition that I found for entitlement. Entitlement is the belief that one is inherently deserving of certain privileges or benefits without having to work for them. This mindset often leads to a sense of entitlement that can hinder personal growth and success. There's a lot we can say about that definition. And if you're saying to yourself, there are certain things that every human being has an inherent right to without working for them, you're absolutely right. So a strong case can be made for entitlement. Because all these things happen to me, I deserve XYZ. No doubt, a strong case can be made. But does that case of I am owed by the world, people owe me, does that get us what we want, or does it keep us stuck and resentful? And I want to ask the question and just put that out for us to really be with in this time together. Is there such thing as healthy entitlement? The deep sort of knowledge that we deserve what's available to every other human, but that to achieve those things, to get those things, it's gonna take commitment and determination. In the same way that maybe a more unhealthy version of enlightenment or enlightenment is more the world owes me, people owe me, and I'm gonna sit here and wait for my Savior to come, for it to be delivered. So we talked about the definition of entitlement. Let's talk about the definition of commitment and determination. Commitment and determination involve putting in the hard work and effort to achieve one's goals. This mindset recognizes that success is earned through dedication, perseverance, and resilience, even for things that should be basic inherent rights. That's a hard one, right? That we actually have to apply work and perseverance to even basic inherent rights. And we know that, right, from our life experience. So often when I talk to our community about entitlement, the subject of fairness comes up. It's not fair. It's not fair that I should have to labor for basic human rights when others don't have to make that same effort. Embracing that life is unfair is challenging, super hard for me, that it's inherently unfair. But do we really have a choice? Does it really work for us to deny reality? So we talked about privilege a little earlier, and I just want to acknowledge that This is sensitive territory that we're entering in together. When we're speaking about people who have been systematically marginalized, oppressed, and violated for most of their lives, having a sense of entitlement. So let's just acknowledge this whole thing about the world being inherently unfair is a tough one to swallow. So since most of us get stuck in this whole conversation of unfairness in the world, life should not be unfair. It should be fair, it should be just, and it should, but it's not. Let's start there. And I wanted to look just at things on the global level that aren't fair. And I'll start. I'm gonna ask you to look too at what's not fair in the world and what's not fair in your life, because we wanna uncover what for me is deep sadness about the world being the way it is. War is not fair, starvation is not fair, poverty is not fair, racism, sexism, homophobia, classism, not fair, xenophobia, slavery, the exploitation of children, all not fair. Massive wealth inequality, massive deficits in resources in one area and massive excess of resources in another area. Not fair on a global level. I'd like you to think about what you find most unfair in the world. We're uncovering this because this notion where we get stuck on the unfairness and the unwillingness to accept it often keeps us from personally achieving the power and the impact that we want to make in the world. So this is the part where I'm going to ask you to write, and if you don't have a pen and paper or a digital device that you can record your responses today and look back over them, go ahead and pause the video and get those now. But if you're ready to start and you have something to write on, either digital or the old-fashioned pen and paper, I'd like you to answer the question, and I'm going to give you a slide to guide you along with the timer. And the question is, what is unfair in our world today? Again, I'd like you to write for the entire time on the timer, and if you've got more to write, which many of you will, pause the video and keep writing until you're finished. What is unfair in the world today? Now let's bring it home to our personal lives, where we experience that sense of unfairness on an intimate and daily basis. So I'm going to ask you to write about what's unfair in your personal life, and I want to share as well, because I'm doing this process right along with you. What's unfair in my personal life is that my kids have to shuttle between houses. What's unfair in my personal life is that many of my friends in the communities we serve don't have enough food to eat or safe places to live. What's not fair in my personal life is many people I love are under the threat of violence. What's not fair in my personal life is that my soon-to-be ex-husband is more concerned with his own well-being than our kids. There's a lot more that I could name that is unfair in my personal life, and I'd like you to do the same. And this is not in any way for us to dig a hole called being a victim. This is really just to unmask all the injustice that we feel so that we can move through a sense of entitlement and move to a place where we can actually make impact and change. So I'm going to ask you now, and you're going to see a slide, again to write for the entire time on the timer and write what is unfair in your personal life. Again, keep writing for the entire time in the timer, and if the timer finishes and you want to keep writing, you've got more to share, just pause the video and keep going till you're finished. So take a look at both your list. What's unfair in the world and what's unfair in your personal life. And let's just take a minute together and be with the very confronting and challenging reality of living in a world that's inherently unfair. As we embrace the vastness of what's unfair in our lives and in the world, we often feel defeated and powerless. And we secretly hope that someone else will fix it. Someone else will make it better for us. So I just want to land with you that we all have that we're all kind of waiting for that magical person or that magical leader, that magical force that has the answers that's going to make everything better. As I can feel that sense of entitlement, that it's somebody else's job to make my life better, I'm starting to think about this whole sense of entitlement and how it lives and operates in our lives. What form does it take? And I'm just gonna share with you some of the forms my entitlement takes. My belief that things should be different than they are just because I want them to be. My partner should act differently. I should be recognized and respected. Someone should give the job or funding to me that I want. Life shouldn't be this hard for me. On some level, we're not wrong. But how does this thinking affect how we move in the world, how we feel about ourselves, how powerful or effective we are? So when we're living with this sense of unfairness that morphs into this sense of entitlement, things should be different. Someone should make it better. Someone should rescue me. Someone should come and fix all these problems. How does that affect us? I wanted to look at some different areas of our life and then give you a chance to explore how this sense of entitlement, that someone should give it to me, that I'm owed, that the world owes me something, that people owe me something, how does this affect different areas of our life? And I wanted to look at relationship. Often in relationships, that breeds a lack of trust, feeling like people owe you something that they're not giving you, something they should be giving you. Our self-esteem, if you don't have the power to make a difference, you're just wanting someone else to do it. What does that do to your self-esteem? Our general attitude, nothing will ever change. Why should I try? Our level of safety that we feel in the world, if we feel no power, it's difficult for us to feel safe. We think things just happen to us. That sense of entitlement that someone is going to fix it also means that we're not in charge. Our faith in humanity. Can we really trust anyone if we're expecting someone else to do it for us, someone else to give it to us? Our faith in God. If God really cared, wouldn't he do something? Wouldn't she do something about this mess down here? Our ability to lead. I'm not the one, someone else is going to do it. It's not me, it's not up to me. Our ability to know what we want. How can we be in touch with what we want if we're waiting for someone else to tell us what we want, to make the changes for us, to fix it for us? And lastly, our ability to get what we want. How can we get what we want if we're not giving the agency to ourselves? If our entitlement says someone else is going to give it to me, someone else owes me, I need to be saved. All right, I know that was a lot. So let's do the realization part. Let's do the part where you go inside and see for yourself how this sense of entitlement, this sense that someone or something outside of you is going to save you, the sense that the world owes you, that people owes you, that you should be compensated somehow for all the bad things by people giving you things that you deserve, right? How does that sense of entitlement affect these different areas of your life? And the first slide is going to ask you, how does feeling entitled affect my relationships? Again, you know what to do. Right until the timer runs out, or until you're finished, feel free to pause the video. I'll see you back here. The next slide asks you, how does this sense of entitlement affect my self-esteem? If someone else or something else out there is going to give it to me or save me and make my circumstances better, how does that affect my self-esteem? Write whatever comes, trust what you get. We'll see you back here. Now, how does feeling entitled affect my general attitude, how I approach life, my outlook? If I'm feeling like I'm owed something, like someone else out there is going to give it to me or save me, whether it's a person or an organization or circumstances, how does that affect my general attitude? You know what to do. And now, how does feeling entitled affect my general feeling of safety in the world? If I am waiting for the shoe to drop, if I am at effect from all these other circumstances, if I am not in charge of my own life and my own destiny, how does that affect the feeling of safety I have as I walk through my life, walk through the streets, go to school, go to the grocery store, be in my family, be in the world? You know what to do. Write it down and we'll see you back here. And how does feeling entitled, feeling like we're owed something, affect our faith and trust in humanity? If we look at other people and the world as the force that's going to save us, rather than ourselves as a force of change that's dynamically involved in the world, how does that affect our faith and trust in humanity? How do we look at other people when we come from a place of entitlement? Take the time, please write until the timer runs out, and feel free to pause the video if you have more to say. This is a big one. Many of us believe in God or a higher power. And how does this sense of entitlement affect our relationship with God or that higher power? If you don't believe in a higher power, you could just say your faith in life. How does it affect your faith in life? But often we're not able to be authentic and honest about the ways that entitlement has us feel disappointed and let down and left and abandoned by God. This is an opportunity to write down how this sense of entitlement, this sense that you should be given something, that you're owed something, how does it affect your relationship with a higher power, God, or life itself, however you experience that? Write it down and we'll see you back here. You're doing great. I know this is a lot of writing, and I appreciate you staying with it and really making this real, really uncovering what's inside. And my next question for you is, how does this sense of entitlement affect your ability to lead and inspire others? So if you believe that something outside of you is going to save you, someone's going to give you the job, someone's going to give you the relationship, someone's going to tell you the answer, someone's going to direct you, someone's going to instruct you, someone's going to lift you out of whatever you're in and take you someplace else, how does that affect your ability to lead and inspire others, to help them find their own agency, their own personal power? Write it down. There's a slide to help. now the core of the work that we do is being in touch with what we really want. Because if we don't know what we really want, we have no chance of getting it. So how does this sense of entitlement get in the way of knowing what you really want? If you're looking outside of yourself for some other force to save you or give it to you or tell you what to do or instruct you, how does that sense of entitlement affect you knowing what you want? Write it down. Finally, how does this sense of entitlement get in the way or affect you getting what you want? So maybe you've contacted what's most important to you. Maybe it's creating a loving relationship and building a family. Maybe it's starting an organization. Maybe it's feeding hungry children. Maybe it's teaching people how to use technology. Maybe you know what you want, but how does this sense of entitlement get in the way? Are you waiting for someone to come tell you how? Are you waiting for someone to come hand you funding? Are you waiting for someone to recognize how good and capable you are and elevate you to a position where you can realize your dream? How does this sense of entitlement affect you getting what you really want? Great job on all the writing. This uncovering shifts the way that we perceive the world. Just the work you've already done, huge and transformational. So I have a question for you. I said that before. Could it be that there is a healthier form of entitlement that's different than the form we've been exploring? Could it be that there's a kind of entitlement that embraces the inherent unfairness of the world, all its inequity, all its oppression, all its violence, and that recognizes that that's not right and that every person deserves to be loved and respected and held, and every person should have the chance to express who they are and to flower and to flourish? And lastly, does that healthy version of entitlement also embrace that we're the ones, that it's up to us, that it's not up to anyone else, that no one is coming, that yes, all those things are true, and the way that we envision the world, a place where everyone could be loved, respected, and celebrated, that is something worth living fully to realize. But it's up to us. How does it feel to try that on? Why not you? Really asking yourself the question, why not me? What if it's all up to me? What about that version of entitlement? The entitlement that takes all the power back to your heart and your soul, and isn't waiting for someone else to tell you what to do, to instruct you, to give it to you, to show you how, to include you, to recognize you. The kind of entitlement that recognizes all that we've just talked about, but puts the power back in your own heart and soul. So let's just try on that healthier version of entitlement, because I think we all know what that feels like inside. And let's blend in a little commitment and determination into that version. And I'd like you to write now about times in your life when you experience that healthier version of entitlement. What did it look like? What did it feel like? You've got a slide to help you. Again, write until the end of the timer. And if you want to keep writing, just pause the video and write until you're finished. Go. amazing work today, courageous work today. Many people do not want to look behind the curtains of unfairness and the entitlement that we all come with, the expectation that someone's going to do it for us that we all come with. You've been willing to take that journey, to pull that curtain back today. So there's a part 2 to this video, and part 2 starts to explore what's possible in that healthier version of entitlement. What's possible when we locate the source of power, control, and change in ourselves. I look forward to seeing you there, and thanks again for this time we've shared.